Welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin, and today I'm going to be reviewing the discovery phase tools that I use for my project management. So first, Google Docs is usually the easiest place for a client to input their requirements, what they would like to see done, and it can be a collaborative space, or that information can just be copied directly from there to another platform of choice. So in this case, the client was able to input their information, put their expected, agenda, their time expectations, and then down below here, they were able to put in their requirements. So here we've got all of the client's requirements for this particular project that I worked on. And let's go ahead and pick one of these requirements here. So let's go with this one right here. What is grounds for receiving a low commitment score based on the members of an organization? So this company tracks the status of their members. And one of the features that they track is their commitment score. So wanting to kind of get more information on what they deem grounds for low commitment, we wanted to go ahead and ask that information. So here's an easy place to input our questions at any given point. The client was able to go into the same document, respond to that when they had the ability and the time to. And then the preferred method of project management that I had here was actually a Jira board. So I went ahead and created a project board on Jira. And here I've got the different columns. You can see my team and I went ahead and had a to-do list. We had an in-progress list and pending client review, and then when tasks were done. So as is an active project, this was something that was ongoing. So let's go ahead and try out one of these requirements here, get kind of more insight into how the layout of this goes. So let's go ahead and open this one up here. Basically, this requirement from the client was wanting to be able to track if a member was at risk of falling through the cracks, basically if they weren't up to par, if they maybe if they did have a low commitment score, then they were more at risk, and this is something that we would want to track. So proposed solution here, we went ahead and created a field for that so that we could have a section to where we would suggest something, and then scratch pad just for kind of errant thoughts that we didn't want to forget, but wasn't necessarily a full thought out process. So that information in the scratch pad here was also custom. We went ahead and then would take that information, put it into the proposed solution once it was a full-blown thought. Then the questions for the client within the team, we input our questions here into the document. And then those questions would be sent to the client on this Google Doc just to make it easier for them, because a lot of clients aren't going to onboard with a lot of other software, a lot of other platforms, especially if they've got a lot going on with their own company and their own side of things. So we just want to make it as easy as possible in this situation for this company who was not very familiar with Jira. So we took our questions that we compiled, switched them back over to the Google Doc. Once those answers were submitted back to Google Doc, we then put the answers back here in the document so that they were accessible to everyone in the team. And then we went from there. So if this were a completed requirement, we would then drag it to the done column and it would be completed. So moving on to one other feature that personally was something that I thought added a lot more value to this process. I wanted to create a space where we could keep track of our notes, keep track of our thought processes, just kind of different discussions that we had, and even our meetings, and keeping notes and detailed lists of like what was changed, how it was changed, certain problems we ran into, and how we solutioned for those problems. So here we've got a client discovery meeting number 1 file. This is the file that I created just to keep track of all that was discussed during the initial client meeting. So here we've got the team, we've got the client, the company, the size of the company, what they offer, the records of concern, and so on. Here are the objectives. We are looking in this first meeting to gather in-depth information about their business process, their needs, their goals, and their challenges. Our other goal was to walk the client through at least the first 50% of their requirements, just reviewing with them, asking non-technical questions, just trying to get the intent behind what they're searching for here. We wanted to break it up in this way so as not to overwhelm the client and our team as well. And then in our follow-up meeting was when we went over the remaining of the questions and then, reviewed any other questions also that the client has throughout this entire process. So here, certain discussion topics that we had, we were able to incorporate those here, keep track of what was discussed, what was important to us. Basically, we wanted to make sure that, hey, since certain things are no longer going to be available to us, we wanted to make sure that we kept note and kept track of them on our own. What was the client's preferred method of communication? In this case, it was Slack. So then we would use Slack to communicate with them, and so on. Here's the scope, must-haves, the nice-to-haves. They wanted extra features if possible, but at least what was on the recommendations list. Certain meeting notes. The client prefers the questions to be sent all at once and then to be notified so that they can go in, say, once a week, maybe twice a week, and respond to those questions rather than just ad hoc questions coming up here and there, and they have to respond to them 3-4 times a day. All right, so then one of the other style of documents that I went ahead and created was a team meeting Confluence document so that we could keep track of what our team was meeting about and discussing. So here we have our own objectives. This was a first meet with this team. So this was a meet and greet with that team, make sure that we were on the same page, share our extent of knowledge and familiarity with the platform, review those 50% of questions, the first 50%, identify who was going to be the note taker during that session so that at least one person was note taking and at least one other could be fully engaged with the client, and then the other could be going through the documents, the slides, controlling the screen share mechanisms. And here we've got certain topics that we went over when things were, expected to be done by, what our availabilities were, our client sessions, our breakout sessions, our touch base sessions, and our review sessions. And these were the expectations for the following session, who it was for, who it was assigned to, and when that was due by. Here is the modification sheet that we kept track of. So basically the date, the member that made the modification, what requirement the modification was attempting to address, and then basically what change was made and why it had to be made. So that way, if there was something that was changed, another team member could go back and see, oh, this is why that change was made. It wasn't for some random thing and I shouldn't change it. I should leave it as is. Or I should speak with that member, that teammate, and figure out a solution to maybe make it better, improve it so that the reason I need it to change can still function with the reason that they needed to make the change in the first place. So these are just some of the documents and some of the platforms that I use to basically manage my projects and really hone in on this discovery phase and make the most of my client interactions.